Instagram. Okay. Hello, everybody. How are you doing? Hope you had a fantastic week and are looking forward to a great weekend. It's another beautiful day here in paradise. It's today the sun is coming in and out this morning. Again, this is our rainiest time of year, as I've been telling you for a few weeks. It's September and October, so we're going to see some more rain, and then November starts to slow down quite a bit, and by December there's no rain at all. So we're really grateful. I'm very grateful for all the rain because we've been planting a lot of trees, and it's fantastic for the trees to have all this wonderful rain. So hope everyone's doing well. Let's see. Let me scroll up here on YouTube. I'm live here on YouTube and Instagram. I don't know about you. I know we've got many younger people here as well as some older folks, all different ages. I know there's a wide range. Our clients have ranged here from 2 to 91 so far. And I suspect the 2-year-olds and the 30-year-olds and everybody in between is probably very comfortable with technology. I'm still not very good. I just figured out this morning, after all these times I've been broadcasting on Instagram, how to stop my iPhone screen from shutting off. So if you wondered why I kept reaching forward, it's because I had to keep touching my screen so it wouldn't go dark, because when it goes dark, it stops recording. And so now it's set to never. And that means that I won't be reaching out so much today. Anyway, let me see if I can maybe say hello to some of the folks on Instagram. I'm going to come back to that. Let me start here on YouTube right now. Cos Cooks says, hello, Loren, your thoughts on adding a little baking soda or to water to raise the alkalinity? Okay, it's a good question. It's a question that comes up from time to time. It's based, I think, on some basic misunderstandings about the impact of the pH of water, alkalinity and acidity. Many people are asking similar questions, thinking this is what we need to do, and it is not what we need to. I'm just going to change the screen just a little bit here. There we go. I like that view better. So, Cos Cooks, keep in mind that oranges and kiwis and strawberries and pineapples and all have one thing in common. Well, they have a few things in common. They're all fruits, but they're all acid fruits. And the pH of oranges or lemons or limes, for instance, lemon juice is a pH around 2.3, which means it's close to 100,000 times more acidic than water. And while you don't want to drink it because it'll take your teeth apart, it's actually alkaline forming. Okay? So the idea that we should raise the pH of our water, or get one of these machines that creates pH water 10 or 11 is nonsense. Okay, the pH of water in nature is between 6 and 8, and we're never going to improve on that. So you'd be better off drinking pH 6 than you would pH 9. Okay, because we want to stay close to neutral, and that's fine. I mean, the fact is that even if the water was pH 5, it would be okay. But we don't need to make it more alkaline, because how something affects our body is not dependent on the pH of the substance when it's sitting on your table. So it's not dependent on whether the water has an alkaline or an acidic pH. This water is usually right around pH 7. It varies all the time. We've measured it many times every few months, and it's usually around pH 7, sometimes a little more, sometimes a little less. But it makes no difference. It doesn't change its impact on our body's pH. It's essentially neutral. But drinking more alkaline water does not make your body more alkaline, and we don't want to add anything to the water. Okay, we want to interact with water naturally. JJRU says, Loren, ever since you said bananas take from us than give, I've been perplexed, because why would we be attracted to something that takes from us? So I searched up desert animals. and found out desert animals eat mostly dry things and rely completely on metabolic water. They are water-making machines. We can do the same with brown fat. As babies, we had massive amounts of brown fat, but that quickly diminished. Please go research on brown fat. Search up why babies don't shiver in cold bath. Yeah, I'm well aware of brown fat. Thank you. But we don't live in the desert. Animals in the desert use fat for temperature regulation, and they can't get a lot of high water content food because there isn't much in the desert. So what's natural for our bodies isn't what's natural for their bodies. And we can still eat bananas and be perfectly fine. We just don't want to focus on them, okay? Because we don't make a lot of fat when we eat bananas, when we eat fruit. I mean, we can, we'd have to, but it's not a very efficient way to produce fat. And so we're far better off eating high water content foods. It's not only that this isn't a theory only, right? Keep in mind that I've been actually living this now for 30 years practically, and have worked with more than 12,000 clients and measure people's hydration. So we know what actually works. What actually works is to eat high water content food. Get your body clean and eat high water content food. That's what works for us. Okay, we're not going to be better off making a bunch of fat and then trying to live off metabolic water. That's not a particularly good strategy for our bodies. Okay, I hope that makes sense. I've got a couple of super chats here, so I'm going to scroll down. Let's see. The first one is Ian, 6x4, Ian 44444, who says, with less sun in the north, vitamin D is a worry. I know you'll say move to the tropics, and I will after the pandemic. You say supplements can be a crutch, but can I take some short term till I get sun? Yeah, well, that's what crutches are for. You're absolutely right about everything that you've said there. I would indeed recommend, bottom line is, right, I've had the privilege, really, of having a chance to see much of the world. There's many places I haven't been to, but I've been to many. I've been to 65 or 70 countries, including Sweden, Finland, Norway. And there are some examples of places that are pretty cold. Beautiful places, but in order to be as healthy as possible, we need to live in a place where we can actually breathe, where our skin can breathe, where we don't, this is a cool day here, and so you've got me with a very light cotton shirt on, but typically I'm in short sleeves and shorts and flip-flops, and in fact, most of the time here, 15 and a half years living in the tropics, when I'm not sitting in front of a camera, I don't normally record shirtless, and I don't normally interact with my clients here shirtless. But most of the time, I'm shirtless. It's just a pair of shorts. And so that's a huge advantage. Not every day of the year perhaps is there sunlight, but every week of the year there's sunlight. I can get sun here, ample vitamin D in the tropics all year round. I can pick the perfectly ripe fruit all year round. And these are some of the reasons why living in the tropics makes much more sense than living anywhere else. And now there's another reason. There are places away from civilization, but living in North America, living in, that was a 10-pound donation. So Ian is contacting us from the UK. Living in the UK, relatively small islands, it's pretty hard to get very far from anything. You can't really isolate yourself too much. And what that means is if you're not already being accosted by 5G, you will be soon. And this is another reason why you're going to want to get out of North America and why you're going to want to get out of most of Europe, because it's going to be everywhere. And most of Asia, most parts, certainly Japan, most parts of Japan, any big city around China. China is an enormous country, and so I'm sure there are places where there won't be much 5G. But you're going to want to get away from that. This is another reason. In the meantime, crutches are intended. You know, I use that word because everyone's familiar with what a crutch is. You break your leg, you use a crutch so you can get around while you can't use your leg. It's a temporary fix, and it's very useful. If you've ever broken your leg, I had 2 broken knees at the same time. That made things challenging. But if you've ever broken a leg, it's useful to have a crutch, right? I mean, crutches allow you to do what you wouldn't be able to do otherwise. So yeah, as long as you need to be in the UK, Ian, where I assume you do remember what the sun is, right? You know, I'm joking, of course, but the fact is there's not so much sunlight in the UK most of the year. You're never going to get your needs met there naturally. And so most people there are probably vitamin D deficient, and many people on the planet are vitamin D deficient for various reasons, but we don't need to be. And obviously, if you live here in the tropics, it's be pretty hard to be vitamin D deficient unless you were really trying. There are people who are. I've met people who are, but I'm not sure how. I mean, I guess they never get outside. So yeah, move to the tropics as soon as you're able to. Make all this happen. In the meantime, absolutely take a vitamin D supplement. Just understand that taking supplements is always a crutch, and it always leaves the body more dependent, right? So long term, it's not a good strategy. I'm just forgetting. I'm remembering now that I can wave to people here on Instagram. So I'm doing that while I'm trying to talk at the same time, and it's actually a little bit uncomfortable because I got my phone software out in front of me. Maybe I'll move it in just a tiny bit, make it a little bit easier to reach. Okay, so hopefully that helps. And thank you very much, Ian, pretty consistently making these contributions. I really do appreciate that very much. Okay, Those Love Songs has made a $25 contribution. Thank you so much for your ongoing kindness. Almost, here almost every week, always generous. And I truly, truly appreciate that very much. I really do. Will has made a $20 contribution and says, is it not uncommon to sweat during long-term fasting? Is it not uncommon to sweat? Double negative there. I think you're asking, is it common to sweat during long-term fasting? The answer is, of course, it depends on many things. If you are fasting, I have my 3rd person in the last month right now fasting in Norway. And although it's only early October, it's not hot in Norway, not ever. I mean, it's not going to be hot this time of year. So, if you're in a cold place, then it would be pretty unusual to sweat. Now, there are periods of fever. I mean, don't get me wrong. Typically what happens during a fast for the average person is body temperature will fall, right? So we were rained out for a movie on Wednesday night. Last night we showed a great old movie. It's a classic. If you haven't seen it, you should. It's called My Cousin Vinny, and it's a very funny movie. Joe Pesci and Marissa Tomei, who won an Oscar for her performance as the leading lady in that movie, really did a great job. That was last night, and I was actually last night was an exception, just because I never had a chance to change from earlier. I recorded something and wanted to look presentable, so was actually dressed more than usual. But often, like for our evening meditations this week, I've been in shorts and a t-shirt. And while my guests are sitting out there with hoodies and often with a hood on, long pants and socks and blankets, because they're fasting, their body temperature tends to drop. Okay, so that's the typical is for the body temperature to tend to drop. But having said that, there will be periods of fever. The body creates a fever on purpose. Fever is the body's way of ensuring that leukocytes and other white blood cells can work as efficiently as possible, right? And so where there's any kind of immune work to do, this happens, for instance, with an infection of any kind, there will be often, pretty much always, there'll be a fever. In fact, a lot of people don't realize this, although I've said this many times before. Every time you eat cooked food, your body temperature goes up. So what we think of as normal, 98.6 Fahrenheit, 37 degrees Celsius, is actually a low-grade fever, because the average person is walking around with a low-grade fever all the time, because they're eating cooked food, and your body responds to the toxins created by cooking. Everything. We cook anything, we've got toxins that have been created by the cooking process, and your body recognizes them, right? And so, yes, I mean, it's not common. Everyone doesn't have a fever when they fast, but it happens. So some people will sweat, obviously, if you're in hot conditions. Now, you want to do whatever you can to avoid sweating more than necessary. Okay? So it's okay if you sweat, but it's okay if you have a fever, it's going to happen. But for instance, you want to avoid sunlight, too much sunlight. It's okay to get a little bit, but what you don't want to do is to stay in the sun so long that you overheat your body, because if you overheat your body, you're losing electrolytes. Okay, you don't want to be physically active, because if you're sweating by being physically active, you are losing electrolytes. And that's true all the time. But in your normal life, you lose a few electrolytes, and then you go eat a meal and you replace the electrolytes. The problem when you're fasting is, if you're going 3-4 weeks, which is, typically here, our average is 26 days. Very few people do less than 21 at any given time. I mean, right now I have a couple of people here fasting 40 days, and one who completed already, one or two others that want to do the same. Someone who did 35 days just completed 35, others that did around 30 days. And so, if you're going weeks without eating and you're losing electrolytes, now you're going to potentially create a serious problem. Okay. And this is where it can potentially get quite dangerous. And so you definitely want to be careful to avoid doing anything that makes you sweat on purpose. Again, if there's a fever, it's okay. It happens. Just, treat yourself the way you normally would, and take care of yourself, and you should be perfectly fine. Okay. I see. So Hero Alfonso has made a $1 Canadian contribution. Thanks, Hero. I appreciate that. Tia says, why does cooking create toxins? It just does. I mean, we are changing the structure of food. It's Tia, if you go to the online, go to the website of any culinary institute, for instance, I don't know where you are, but in New York, there's a famous school called the Culinary Institute of America, CIA. If you go to the CIA and you look at their course catalog, you'll see a series of courses called like Food Chemistry 101, Food Chemistry 102. I don't know what the numbers are, but you understand. It's a series about food chemistry. Why food chemistry? Because when we cook food, when we heat food, we create chemical reactions. So cooking carbohydrates creates acrylamide. Okay, cooking fats and proteins. I mean, there's actually many different types of toxic compounds formed because of the chemical reactions when we cook food, when we heat food. And so, why? I guess the answer is chemistry. This is just what happens. It is what it is. All right. And so you want to be, this is why for 20 plus years, I don't have a stove. There isn't one here. Actually, I take that back. That's not true. My last place in the U.S., we never took the stove out. We never used it. We actually had it covered with something, but we never used it. But now 15 and a half years in Central America, first thing I did when I moved in to my permanent residences here was take the stove out. We don't need it. Why have it there? It's just wasting space. So we take the space out and use that space for other things. Here, I've completely renovated the kitchen. We have a beautiful kitchen, and there's no stove, and there's no oven, and there's no place for one, because we are set up as a permanent raw food kitchen. Cooked food is toxic to the body, and there's no reason to eat it. So here, there's no way. There's no way to cook anything. I would encourage you to avoid all cooked food if you want to maximize your health and vitality. Stephanie Poliche, thank you so much. Stephanie has made a $4.99 contribution. Stephanie is another regular who shows up pretty much every week with her wallet and contributes to this, and I really appreciate that, Stephanie. Stephanie says, I'm glad to hear the December yoga retreat is on. Yay. Yes, indeed. We have a yoga retreat, and Stephanie, you can probably tell me, I think this is the 12th to the 19th or the 11th. I think it's the 12th to the 19th. I mean, I know it's not after that because we have a fasting session that opens on the 19th. And so here's a great idea. Come to this amazing yoga retreat for a week from the 12th and then stay on to fast afterwards. Not Stephanie, but anybody interested, stay on to fast. Book your stay with us now. And I'm not talking about the retreat, but for fasting, we are still offering for a very limited time, still offering 20% discount. So, but that's with full payment now. Why? Because we've been nearly empty for 7 months, and we have a few more people here now, but we've gotten behind her, so it's been an interesting time. And again, it makes me even more grateful for the support here from those of you who are supporting. Thank you so much. So the retreat will be fantastic. Stephanie been here for events and so and as well as to fast, and so already knows this, but we have a dynamic duo who will be leading the retreat. I'll be here at least most of the time, and we'll probably contribute one or more lectures, but it's basically going to be these guys. Katie, a lovely yoga teacher who is fantastic, and her husband, Fran, who is working with me on a project, an amazing guy, and does some pretty cool work of his own. So you'll get a treat if you're here for that. All right, let's see. We have another couple of super chats here. The next one is Brenda. Hey, Brenda, how are you? Brenda's a dear friend who has helped me in past years organize our fruit festival. We haven't talked about that this year, but let me know if you're up for that, Brenda. We'd love to make that happen and see you here again. We missed you last time. Brenda says, first of all, has made a $13.99 contribution. Thank you so much. And says, what's your thoughts on cavitations? Can they heal fully without going in and removing the ligaments and spongy bone that's preventing healthy bone growth? Honestly, this isn't something I know a lot about. So I would have to say I really don't know. And by the way, I mean, that's something you may not have heard me say very often, but I will say it anytime I really don't know. I have no qualms about saying this. This isn't something I have much experience with. My belief around this is that the body can probably heal this without the need for surgery. But again, it's not something I have much experience with. So sorry about that, Brenda. I wish I could tell you more. Feel free to contact me and we can explore this together. I'll do a little bit of research for you and see what I can find. But at this point, I can't really say much more than that. Okay. All right, so let me scroll down here. Patrick Miller, thank you so much, Patrick. Welcome. I don't recognize your name. I'm sure you've probably been here before, but it's not a name I see regularly. And so thank you so much for your kind contribution. Patrick has made a $4.99 US contribution and said, would you please talk for a minute about the temperature of the water we drink and how it affects our body? Thank you. Yeah, absolutely. It's a great question. It's one of those things that's often overlooked. It was, I think yesterday or the day before, on one of the fasting groups on Facebook, someone said, is it okay to drink hot water while I fast? I'm feeling cold. And other person said, yeah, I do it all the time. No, I wouldn't recommend doing that at all, because when we drink something hot, we force the body to work to cool it down before it can use that. We can't, the body doesn't want to be taking in this nearly boiling water, right? So we're actually creating additional work for the body. And, it's interesting, people drink things that they wouldn't be able to stick their finger in without burning their finger. And yet the skin inside the throat and the entire intestinal tract is much more sensitive than the skin on our hands, on the outside of the body, which is constantly in contact with things and, and temperature, etc. I mean, this skin is far tougher, more resilient than the skin inside the digestive tract, and yet people are putting in these very hot substances. So either heat or cold forces the body to work, to lose energy, to bring the temperature to closer to body temperature. So ideally, the water we drink should be between room temperature and body temperature, right? Body temperature, again, 37 degrees Celsius, 98.6 Fahrenheit. That's a little high, but even if it was that warm, it would be fine, right? On the other side, it really shouldn't be too much cooler than our environment. Okay. Now, I will admit that sometimes when we have someone who's dealing with a lot of nausea while fasting, I will give them cold water because it simply makes it possible for them to drink sometimes when they wouldn't otherwise be able to. And for many people, many people are starting out dehydrated and are needing water. They're needing to get the water in. And so this is just a way to help them do that. It'd be better if they could do it with room temperature water. And, it would be better if the water was a little warmer rather than being super cold. But chilling it a little bit makes it easier for some people that are feeling some nausea triggered by drinking water, which happens often when people fast. Not always, but sometimes. Okay, I hope that helps. Hope that makes sense. Again, thanks for your contribution. Sherry has made a $5 contribution and says, did you hear about Trump's CV diagnosis? Did you get some money returned by PayPal? I did not hear about Trump's CV diagnosis. Are you saying that Trump has been diagnosed as being sick or of being positive? Because remember that a positive test for coronavirus is actually meaningless. It's pretty much meaningless because that test was only designed to determine whether someone's been exposed to coronavirus. And coronaviruses are everywhere. There's many of them, and it doesn't distinguish one from the other. Right? I mean, again, as I've talked about before, the Nobel Prize-winning scientist Kary Mullis, who invented that test, said very explicitly, cannot be used to determine whether someone has a particular disease or not. And yet that's exactly what they're trying to tell us. Oh, this person is sick. Like that positive means something. It means nothing. It means you've been exposed to a virus. You have thousands of viruses in your body right now, in every moment. And remember, viruses are secreted by the body. Okay, the whole understanding of common understanding of viruses is completely wrong. Okay, first of all, the pathogen doesn't create the problem. Second of all, pathogen is not even the right word. It's what people say, but we need bacteria and viruses in order for our bodies to function properly. Okay, the problem isn't the presence of the virus, it's the condition of the body, it's the terrain. When your body is healthy and hydrated and clean, it's going to function amazingly well, and there's absolutely nothing to be concerned about. So I wouldn't be the least bit concerned, French kissing someone who has the coronavirus, because I can't get sick. I mean, when I go to family functions, a wedding, a bar mitzvah, a big gathering of people. Remember those in the old days? We could have gatherings with more than, whatever it was. We didn't have to stay 3 meters apart. I mean, how idiotic all this is. Okay, when I go to those gatherings, or in the past went to these gatherings, there's always that one person that says, "Oh no, don't come any closer. I've got a cold." I'm like, "Yeah, give me a big kiss." I'm not worried about your cold. Colds are viruses. Colds are usually coronaviruses, in fact. Okay, there's when I say it's a virus, what I mean is the cold is the body detoxifying, and one of the things that it's eliminating is a coronavirus. Okay, it's an exosome. It's being excreted by the toxic cell. And so these aren't things to be afraid of. Okay, it's not the problem. I didn't hear about this. And no, we have gotten nothing back. We haven't even gotten an email back We get an automated response when we email them. They don't answer their phones. In fact, thank you so much for your question, Sherry, because I was thinking that it might be time to look for a lawyer. And the problem is we're not really in a position to pay a lawyer. But if anyone knows anyone who might be willing to help, I mean, it's not that I can't pay anything, but we're not in great shape right now with, what are we now? March through September. So including March, we've had 7 months without clients here. I mean, we've had a few since July. We had 2, and then later 4, and then 0, 2 again, and then 6, and then 8. And I think we've now had around 9 or 10 for the last week or so, with a couple more supposed to be coming tomorrow. But, we're a long way from generating enough income to cover our expenses this way. And so, I mean, I'm doing my best to cover them, but I'm working overtime online, doing a poorer job getting enough rest than ever before because I've got so much on my plate right now. And I'm okay. I mean, I'll handle it. It's going to be fine. I'm going to need a break afterwards for sure. But yeah, nothing from PayPal. Crazy. I mean, it's amazing. And I'd love to find someone that can help us. I mean, frankly, they probably, again, I don't know that I have money to do this or would prevail, but they probably should be sued. I mean, a lot of people would have been gone a long time ago with all their money locked up by PayPal. If you haven't heard that story, I'm not going to go into too much detail now other than to say back in November last year, here it is October now, late November last year, I was on a lecture tour. I got an email from PayPal saying we were operating outside of their policies. We changed nothing. We've been using PayPal for 20 years, doing exactly the same things. And we were outside of their policies, and so they were permanently closing our account and holding our funds for 180 days, which makes no sense because normally they don't allow refunds after, I think, 2 or 3 months, right? If you have an issue, you need to dispute it within 2 or 3 months. After that, why would they need to hold it for an additional 3 months? Well, that 6 months passed 5 months ago. I mean, it's now been not 11 months. It's been 10 plus months since this happened. So it's been more than 4 months, coming up on 5 months since that 180 days was passed. We've heard nothing from them. They've done nothing to get us back our money. They've actually taken more money out of my account. Now, I can still get in and look at it. I just can't touch it. I can't spend it. I can't send it, and I can't deposit it in my bank. It's frozen, and yeah, it's more than a tiny bit frustrating, actually. So thanks for your question. And yeah, I'd love to hear more about what's going on with Trump. Don't know anything about that. I'll check it out. It's too late, Dino says 5G is here. Well, it's not too late, Dino. It's there, but you don't have to be. I mean, that's my point. My point is there's going to be 5G everywhere. And so Jason Lee says he has COVID. So, okay, well, I mean, Trump is not a young man, not a healthy guy. He lives on crap. He's overweight. Not surprising. I mean, people his age get sick. That's what happens. And it's not really too surprising. But anyway, yeah, it's not too late. You can escape 5G by going someplace where they're unlikely to be willing to put antennas every 100 meters, right? Our closest neighbors 500 meters in that direction and 500 meters in that direction and much further in these two directions. So the likelihood of them ever putting antennas in here, how's that going to make any sense? Antennas are expensive. They're going to put in 5 antennas to get from here to there. So the signal can be, I don't think so. I mean, they're going to have to, something significant is going to have to change with the technology to make it work in places like here. Okay, so it may be too late where you live, and that's why, one of the reasons why you might not want to continue living there, right? You might want to go find a safe place to be because it's not safe for your health if there's 5G. You are not safe. You need to be away from that nonsense. That is very harmful technology. Okay, so let's see. I don't have any other super chats here. I'm going to scroll back up and see where I left off.
Abstract Swirl says, hi, I've been full raw vegan. Oh, now I just got another super chat. Hi, been full raw vegan, fruit-based, low-fat for 3 years with a few bumps in the road of eating cooked veggies. I'm getting dark circles under eyes, kidneys weak. Any advice to strengthen them? Yeah, you should probably be fasting with experienced guidance, because fasting is how we allow the body the optimal conditions to heal itself. Every organism is self-healing. Every organism instinctively stops eating when it needs to heal. Now, the problem is that only humans tend to create chronic conditions. And the natural impetus to stop eating happens with acute crises, not so much with the chronic ones. I mean, the chronic, how would that work? Like it would never stop, right? So it's where there's an acute crisis, your body says, hey, let's not eat. With a chronic situation, you need to understand that's what to do. And you need to have experienced guidance to be sure that you maximize your benefit and minimize your risk. If you want to schedule a consultation with me, a 1-hour consultation, I am super busy. I only have about 3 or 4 open windows per week available, and they get booked pretty quickly. But you can go to the Tanglewood website and see if you can book an hour with me, and I can help you explore what else might be happening. But generally speaking, it's a need for the body to cleanse and heal itself. That's probably what's going on. Okay. I'm going to scroll back down and see what this last super chat is. This was Patrick. Patrick Miller says, I'd like to come fast with you early in 2021. I've been all over your videos for several years on and off. Well, thanks, Patrick. I appreciate that. I mean, I'm guessing I'm actually making some assumptions here. You said you want to come fast. I'm glad we'll be glad to have you here. And you've been all over the videos on and off. And I guess if you want to come fast, that means you've enjoyed the videos or they've been beneficial to you. I hope so. Remember, right now, for Patrick and everybody else, there's still an opportunity to save 20%. Okay, we're usually full. So as soon as things change and we're full again, we're going to stop offering this. We're offering this because we've needed to raise income to pay our bills. But as soon as everyone's allowed to come back, and I mean, that could happen very soon. You know, Costa Rica is already, it's been easing things. There are now 20 states from the US that can come here, as well as most of Europe, some of Asia, China, Hong Kong, Singapore, Uruguay, and that's about all I can remember. I think that might be it, actually, right now. But that's going to change because Costa Rica needs it to change. Californians can come as of yesterday. We're now open for people from California. If you're from the US, they actually want evidence of which state you live in because they're allowing people to come in by state, okay? So once, you know, but I mean, this is severely affecting the country's economy. Costa Rica's economy is dependent on tourism. And guess what? There hasn't been much tourism in this last year. And so yesterday and today, there are widespread protests. They have been blockading all the highways. So I had someone who was a volunteer who was supposed to have, she went off to do some things and was supposed to come back yesterday, couldn't get back because the highways were closed. And she is now, she'll be getting on a ferry, I think, to cross over from Punta Arenas to here in the next hour or so. And we'll be here, we'll be here within a few hours, but she's arriving almost a full day late, or just about, maybe it is a day late. I think she was going to take the same ferry yesterday. So she's arriving a day late because of this. And this is happening because so many Costa Ricans are out of work, right? They're no longer working. People have lost their businesses. I mean, a lot of people. This has been really, really challenging for the entire national economy, as well as for the world. I mean, it's a lot of places are being affected this way, but Costa Rica is certainly one of them. And so, I think what that means is that they're going to do everything they can to open up. And the protest is, people saying, hey, stop the nonsense, right? Everything's fine, right? Because there's all these positives now, but a lot fewer people dying. What does that tell you? First of all, again, if you haven't heard me talk about this before, the whole thing is essentially nonsense. Yes, people are dying. I'm not saying that. And if you've lost someone,
my heart goes out to you. That's difficult regardless of the cause. But COVID-19 is not some terrible pandemic. It's a friggin' flu. And it's the cure for all other conditions because no one's dying of anything else this year. Everyone's dying of COVID-19. Okay, it's nonsense. All right. So how are we doing time-wise? We still have about 15 minutes that I can be with you. I go right from here to another call, so it's going to be something like that. But Patrick, anyone else, if you already know you're going to come, hey, this is the time. Get yourself registered now and take advantage of this discount while we're still offering it, because hopefully it won't be too much longer that things will open back up and we'll stop offering the discount. We won't need to anymore. We won't do it if we don't need to. We'll stop offering it as soon as we can fill back up without it, which is, has been the case now for most of the last 23 years. We stayed busy. We've never, well, not never, 22 years ago, I paid for magazine ads twice and got nothing from them and thought, this is a lot of money for no benefit. And, we've since, we've stayed full for years. We stayed full based on referrals, some live speaking engagements. Back before we had all this technology, it would just be me live speaking. But it was mostly referrals and return clients. Our clients come back because they love it here. They get amazing benefits. Just today, I read an email from a client who said, got some great news I wanted to share with you. She, not that long ago, a couple months, 2 months ago maybe, completed her second fast with me, both via Skype. We've never met in person. And she said, I started out with HPV. If you're not familiar with it, HPV often leads to cervical cancer for women. And she said, I had 3 different strains. One was very, very harmful, dangerous, virulent, whatever. And again, I'm not going to debate, what causes what, but here, this is a virus, and they say this is the cause. It's the presence of this, I think, which says there's an issue. But in any case, she had 3 of them. It's not a positive outlook. She's now been diagnosed as being clear of all of them. And what she said was, thank you so much for helping to save my life. I can now live a healthy life. I get messages like this almost every day. And, comments from people who say, thank you so much. I've been watching all your videos. And we have a guy here that says over almost every day, says, I've watched all your videos, except all the ones we've made since he's been here. But anyway, I hear from people all the time how this work has changed them. And it's why I'm committed to it. It's why I keep doing it. It's why even when it's been really challenging for me in various ways, I've stayed the path. It's why I'm, I didn't go figure out, okay, maybe it's time to go do something else when this happened, because this has been a difficult year for sure. Basically working all the time just to cover our overhead. And honestly, if you saw the video, we bought a piece of land. It took 3 years to get almost 3 years, 2.5 years to get a mortgage refinance, just because everything's so slow. And we finally were able to buy the farm next door. We didn't want to lose a whole nother year, right? If we missed this rainy season, then it's next rainy before we can plant anything. So I've gone ahead, and it's been even more of a struggle to hire the additional help we've needed to create what we're creating over there. And Guzelle is working on another video, sequel, part 2 of that should be up sometime soon. And I think it's going to be pretty amazing. And then maybe we'll continue to update you over time on what's happening there. But we've continued to improve the place. It's kind of wouldn't have made sense not to, because we've had all this empty space, so it just makes it easier to do. But anyway, we're doing this even though income has been much tighter than usual. So again, thanks everyone for the help here. Ian, another comment says, do you agree that sitting for long periods is not optimal for health? If so, have you considered a standing desk? Thank you for wisdom on Fridays. Yeah, I'm familiar with standing desks. I think ideally for me, it would be a combination of sitting and standing. First of all, I don't agree that sitting for long periods of time isn't healthy. I think this, and I understand. I mean, there's science that says that. Well, with every study, the issue is how is it being interpreted? And the problem isn't the sitting down. The problem for most people is that when you sit down all day long and people don't move very much and they spend a lot of time sitting, they lose any flexibility, right? And so their joints become inflexible. They can't bend their knees. They can't bend their Achilles tendons. They don't have flexible in their hips and groins. The fact is that we can sit in chairs all day long. I sit quite a bit. I'm still very flexible. I have no health challenges. The sitting isn't the problem. The problem is that most people are simply couch potatoes. They're not being active enough. I still work out, not as much now as I normally do, but right over there in the corner is my yoga mat. Right over here behind this table right here, I've got my push-up stands. Most days I'm working out every day, at least a little bit. I'm moving the body, and because I stay hydrated, I stay flexible. And so, it's and again, I mean, I'm nearly 60 years old, and yet, I'm able. I mean, that is something that most people my age can't do. A lot of people much younger than me can't do, and it's not a big deal. I don't need to practice this. This is just what happens with hydration and a high level of health in general. And so sitting is problematic for people who just aren't being active enough and they're dehydrated and toxic, etc. It's not the sitting. It's not sleeping. People say sleeping in a bed is bad for you. No, it's not. Sleeping in beds is perfectly fine. You don't need to sleep on a hard floor. The problem is that if you're dehydrated and losing flexibility, then a bed can create issues, right? Because of the way it may or may not be supporting. Now, a really good mattress should be no problem at all. But bad ones, people wind up with back problems, but it's not because of the bed. It's because of the condition of the body, okay? Virtually all of our challenges, again, it's not the pathogen, it's not the bed, it's not the chair, it's the body. What are we doing with the body? Is the body balanced and healthy? Is it hydrated? If we can maintain that, we literally have no problem. It's like no problem at all, okay? So I'd encourage you to reconsider the ideas about what the cause of the issue is, okay? All right, I'm gonna scroll back up here in the meantime and see until there's another super chat. How are we doing time-wise? We still have a few minutes. Let me see where we were. Okay, I think I passed this, maybe. Yeah. I missed some things earlier. Okay. So let's see. Abstractville, hello, all healing warriors. Mia's here in the house. Hello, Mia. Good to see you. Looking forward to speaking with you tomorrow. Something, haha, Loren is funny. I'm guessing you're talking about this. I was born with that, Mia. I can't help it. Okay. It's not really nice to make fun of things that people have no control over. Okay. So thanks for that. I appreciate that. I think a sense of humor is really important. Life is difficult. And when we can look at everything with a sense of humor, it's a heck of a lot better. You have to be able to laugh at yourself. You have to not take everything, take things lightly, right? Take things lightly. Okay. All right. Hope you sip at least 4 liters a day slowly, because from my experience, that's the most critical piece of fasting. It's 10 times more important than resting. That's to Mia. Yeah, it's definitely not 10 times more important than resting. You got to be resting. I mean, resting, the whole thing is about resting. In fact, and again, listen, I don't mean to be argumentative, and I'm certainly not trying to attack you. My job here is to just help everyone understand these things. I have a fair amount of experience with fasting. If a body is really well hydrated, then there's no need to sip 4 liters a day. I don't sip 4 liters a day. When I'm fasting, I might sip 4 liters a week. I do. I probably sip a liter a day when I'm fasting. But I don't drink that much. Well, we're talking about fasting. Yeah. So I sip much less than 4 liters a day because I don't need it. And so we can't say, oh, that's the most important thing is sipping 4 liters a day. It's not. And some people need 6 or even more. Okay. So it's not, there's no arbitrary amount of water that we need.
maybe what you found, JJRU, is that works for you, 4 liters, but that's the minimum that I find most people need. Okay, most people. Some people need much less. Some people need much more. Okay, it's not like that's a magic amount. It's not. Resting is absolutely critical. And if you don't think that's true, and that means you're not resting while you're fasting, you're not coming close to getting the benefits you could be getting. Not even close. I guarantee you. The whole thing is about liberating the body's energy, to use the body's energy to cleanse and heal. So you absolutely need to minimize all unnecessary activity if you hope to have any serious benefit from the process. Okay? All right. Sherry, hello from San Diego. Hello there, Sherry. Hello, Vico. Nice to see you. Glad you're here. I've seen people resting the whole time in their 40-day fast live stream. They barely got any result from it because they never sipped water. Well, you've seen people resting all day long in their live stream. Someone who's on a live stream all day is probably not really resting. I mean, I've only seen one person do that, fasting, Connor McMillan, and he wasn't resting. He was sunbathing way too much. He was online a lot. He certainly wasn't resting all day. Okay, but you know, again, we need to understand it's a combination of factors. You need to rest all day, and you need to get the appropriate amount of water for your body. How do you know how much that is? Honestly, it's really difficult to do unless you understand how to properly interpret daily vital signs, something doctors and nurses don't understand. You need to have experienced guidance to get you through the process with as much benefit as possible. Okay, I mean, I know I had a woman commenting on my video, one of my videos the other day, and she said, I'm about to embark on a 40-day fast. And I said to her, I hope you're not planning on doing that without experienced guidance. And she said, oh, you're part of the problem. You think everyone should rely on you. You know, I have more experience than you do, blah, 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 blah. Lady, simple fact, most people do not know what they're doing when they're fasting. I mean, unless you fasted like hundreds of times, and even, you know, even doing that, I mean, my response to her was, hey, you know what? I've been skiing, downhill skiing. I haven't done it in a while, but I started downhill skiing more than 40 years ago. I would gladly take lessons from someone who's been doing it for 10 years if they're a professional, because I'm not a professional skier. I could learn a lot from someone who skis every day in the winter. And this is what they do, and this is what their focus is. This is what I've been doing now for 23 and a half years, every day, guiding people through this process, thousands of times. Okay, someone who's fasted, you know, let's say 5-10 times in their life, they may be making the same mistakes over and over again. So, I mean, listen, I skied a bunch of times before I ever got a lesson. And then I was like, oh, that's how you're supposed to do it. Okay? We see people here all the time who fasted on their own, and then they come here and without exception, they say, wow, this was much more powerful here, or working with me via Skype, than it was. Then she said, this is rich. Then she says, you assume I don't know anything. I'm a certified massage therapist. I'm like, oh, that's fantastic. How does that qualify you to understand fasting? I don't really teach a lot of fasting in massage school. Okay, your massage certification doesn't mean you're a fasting expert. Okay, I mean, there are certain things that just doesn't make sense to do without having that guidance. And this, look, honestly, I'm so busy. I don't really have much more time. It's, you know, here we're normally full. So I don't take a salary. It's not like this is personally enriching me. I'm telling you, what I'm saying here about fasting is what every real expert who's understood fasting has said for 150 years. Fast with experienced guidance, because that's how you stay safe and that's how you maximize your benefits. Okay? All right, we are just about out of time. So, all right, I'm going to have to end here. I was just going to scroll and see if there was anything else that jumped out at me. But I see Dino says Elon Musk has government approval for 20,000 satellites, which will 0.5, I'm not sure what that means, at our planet every single corner of the Earth. Yeah, I understand. I think what Dino is saying is the planet will be blanketed with 5G, and that's true. However, think about this, okay? There's a cost to send this signal, and they're not going to be broadcasting the same strength of signal in places where there's nothing happening. I mean, they need 5G to cover the world so that self-driving cars can operate and all these other things, right? The Internet of Things, where everything is going to be connected, that's happening. That's coming now. And so, yes, there are thousands of satellites already in orbit and more that are going to be sent up to blanket the planet with 5G. And the most powerful 5G signals are going to be where there's a lot of population density. Because if there are, let's say they put it here, and the only people online, my neighbors don't have computers, okay? They're not online. So it's going to be for us. Is it going to make sense to put an antenna in for when, and how strong will that signal be that they're broadcasting for one group, okay? Look at that compared to New York City, okay? When I was at the Air Force Academy more than 40 years ago, I left there 40 years ago. So 40 years ago, I did some research. I had a roommate from Idaho where there were 10 people per square mile, and in Washington, D.C. at the time, where there are no high-rise buildings in the city. Nothing can be higher than the top of the Capitol. The tallest building in the city was around 12, 13 stories. And where in New York, you've got buildings that are 100 stories high, right? So in Washington, D.C. 40 years ago, the population density was 10,000 people per square mile. In New York City, it's probably 3 or 4 times that much, okay? In Manhattan, right? So think about the fact that you've got, let's say 25, 30,000 people in an area on one block, because the antennas are every block. You got 35,000 people in one block. There's going to be a very powerful signal to make sure everyone's connected. In a place where there's one family, within a kilometer, I don't think there's going to be a lot of signal there. Okay, so the satellites aren't going to be beaming. My guess is they're not going to be beaming the same strength of coverage that you're going to see in cities. The most dangerous place to be is places that are densely populated. Okay, as well as all the highways between them. Those are going to continue to have very high coverage. You want to get out of North America. You want to get out of Europe. You want to get out of these heavily populated places in Asia. You want to go live in a tropical location where there's not a lot of population density. In Costa Rica, which is the size of North Carolina, has a population of around 4 million people, the majority of which, around 2/3 of which, live in the Central Valley. Where I live, there's 10 or 20 times more cows than people, okay? The cows don't use a lot of Wi-Fi. So, all right, folks, got to go. Hope you had a great morning. Hope you've enjoyed this. I haven't said this today, but I see there's a bunch of you here and a lot fewer thumbs ups. If this has been good for you, please like it on Instagram. Please give it a thumbs up here on YouTube. Feel free to share this broadcast with anyone you think might benefit from it. There are a lot of people out there who are struggling to feel and function as amazingly well as they could. And this information, I think, can help. If you agree, please share it. My 10 o'clock call is calling me. I'll see you. Bye-bye.